Dear learners and listeners, Namaskar. I am Dr. Shweta and today I am going to talk to you about on the topic childhood. Childhood is a beautiful phase of life for most of us. It is a period associated with play, fantasy and innocence. It is a crucial phase in life and involves important aspects of growth and development which are actually critical for the entire lifespan. But there are certain sub-stages in childhood. The first stage of the childhood is known as infancy, and this infancy period ranges from birth to 2 years of age. The next sub-stage of childhood is known as early childhood, and early childhood covers the period between 2 to 6 years of age. Then comes the middle childhood, which is approximately between the 16 to 11 years of age. And lastly comes the adolescence period, and this ranges from 12 years of age to up till 19 years of age. Because we are talking on childhood today, so the objectives must be clear to you. Today, the main objectives of the program are going to be that we will be discussing about the physical and motor development in childhood, the cognitive development in childhood. Also, we will talk about the socio-emotional and personality development that takes place in childhood. And lastly, we are going to discuss about the process of socialization within the cultural context. Let us first talk to you about that what is the physical and motor development in childhood and how does it occur. Physical growth is extremely rapid during infancy. Why it is extremely rapid? You might have seen children around you, those who are 0 to 3 months of age, that how do they change physically. It is comparatively slower in middle childhood. As the child's body size, height and weight increases, there are also changes in the muscular and skeletal structure. That is, the growth of the children shows a gradual decline during the middle childhood. The sequence of physical and motor development is fairly uniform across different cultures. Yet, there are larger individual differences. That is, although all the children around the world show similar kind of changes, but across all the cultures, but little individual differences can be seen. What are these individual differences? You might have seen around you that one child may start walking at 10 months of age, while in comparison to that child, the another child may start walking at 24 months of age. There are different milestones of physical and motor development. The milestones tells us that what are the physical changes that must take place at particular time span. For example, the lifting head and chest appears at 2 months of age. The child starts sitting alone without any support by 8 months of age. It has been seen that the children are capable of standing with support by 8 to 9 months of age, and they may crawl at 9 months of age also. We have seen that lot of children start standing independently by 9 or 10 months of their age, and by 3 years they are capable of riding a tricycle. Understanding of physical and motor development is extremely important, as it provides the basis for the development of child's personality, social and emotional development. It also helps establish emotional bonding between the child and the mother figure. It also helps mastery over the child's own body and movement. So, these milestones basically helps us in having a fair idea that how the child grows physically. Now, let us understand about the concept of gross and fine motor development. First of all, let us understand that what do we mean by gross motor development. Gross motor development actually refers to the control over larger muscle groups that enables the child to get around. For example, crawling, standing, walking, etc. That means these activities, which is crawling, standing or walking, involves the larger muscle group to act upon. Fine motor development. In comparison to gross motor development, fine motor development does not involve the larger muscle group. It involves or it refers to the control over smaller muscle movements. For example, grasping, pinching, etc. This was all about the gross and fine motor development. Now let us come up to understanding that how the physical and motor development takes place in early childhood, that is the period ranging from 2 to 6 years of age. Now what happens during 2 to 6 years of age? That the child who has become mobile is now able to widen the sphere of activities beyond the immediate family. Why does this happen? Because now the child moves out of the family and starts his or her social group, that is he might go outside for play or he might start his or her schooling. A 3-year-old can run in a straight line and jump smoothly without falling down. It has been seen that a 4-year child can also skip, jump on one foot and catch a large ball which is thrown from a distance. Between 2 and 3 years, young children stop toddling and they also develop the ability to run, jump and hop. Children who are 3 to 4 years of age are now capable of climbing up these stairs using a method of bringing both feet together in each step before proceeding to the next step. 3 and 4 years children improve in eating food themselves and can use utensils like forks and spoons. That is, now they become capable of eating on their own with little help. It has been seen that by 4 years of age, most of the children are toilet trained. We have just discussed about the physical and motor development during early childhood, which is the period ranging from 2 to 6 years of age. Now let us know about the development in middle childhood, which is the period ranging from 6 to 11 years of age. Now what happened during this period? During this period, the physical growth becomes more gradual and rate of overt changes becomes slower until puberty at about 11 to 13 years, when there is again a rapid growth spurt. There are changes in height, weight and muscular strength and swiftness. If you remember, I mentioned this point earlier also that in infancy, the rate of growth of physical development is very rapid, but it starts gradually declining in the middle childhood. Why it starts declining in the middle childhood? Because the changes in the height, weight and muscular strength and swiftness is taking place. It has been seen that during this period, there are large gender differences. You can see the differences in the girls and boys. That is, the girls are slightly shorter than boys during 6 to 8 years of age, but then the trend reverses. That is, the boys might show more development as compared to girls, but till that time girls start putting on weight. You might have seen that a 10-year-old girl may look taller and heavier than a boy of the same age. The growth spurt for boys comes later than for girls. That is, during 6 to 10 years approximately, the girls grow faster than the boys. But after this, the boys' physical development starts growing or becomes more rapid. So, as of now, we have discussed about the physical development. Now, let us also get ourselves familiar with the cognitive development that takes place during childhood. That is, how the child learns the things in the environment around him or her. The cognitive development. As we all know that cognition means that what is your thought process, how do you learn, memorize, etc. Cognitive development. It refers to the way children learn and process information. It includes improvement in attention, perception, language, thinking, memory and reasoning. Jean Piaget has given 4 major stages of cognitive development. The first stage of cognitive development occurs from birth to 2 years of age, and this is known as sensory motor stage. The second stage of cognitive development, according to Jean Piaget, occurs between 2 to 7 years of age, and this period is known as pre-operational stage of cognitive development. Then comes the concrete operational stage, and it lasts from 7 years of age up till 11 years of age. And lastly comes the formal operational stage, which happens after 11 plus years. Let us now discuss about these cognitive development in greater detail. First of all, let us know that how the cognitive development takes place in the early childhood, that is between the period of 2 to 6 years of a person's life. What happens during 2 to 6 years of age? The children become increasingly proficient in using symbols such as words and images that helps them in representing variety of objects, situations and events. By the time children enter school, they have a reasonably good vocabulary. Early childhood, that is the period from 2 to 6 years of age, is the phase when the child progresses through the pre-operational stage. There are actually two sub-stages of pre-operational stage. The first stage is known as symbolic function stage, which lasts from 2 to 4 years of age, and the next is known as the intuitive thought process, which is ranging from 4 to approximately 7 years of age. First of all, let us know that what is symbolic functional stage. In the symbolic functional stage, children can create mental images of objects and store them in their mind for later use. For example, such a child can draw a picture of or pretend to play with a puppy that is no longer present there. The pre-operational stage is also characterized by egocentrism, that is, the inability to see the world from someone else's point of view. According to Jean Piaget, children with egocentrism explain situations from their own perspective and understanding, and they fail to understand the perspective of other individuals. That is, whatever is happening around them, they try to infer that on the basis of what they are thinking. The next substage, as I have discussed in the pre-operational cognitive stage, is known as the intuitive thought process stage. What happens in the intuitive thought process stage? That children during this substage are very keen to understand that why and how the things are happening around them. These children show centration, that is, they focus on one characteristics of the object and base their decision or judgment on that only. This was all about the cognitive development that takes place in the early childhood. Now let us discuss that how the cognitive development takes place in the middle childhood. As this stage is called the concrete operational stage according to Piaget, so the main characteristics during middle childhood are as follow. First of all, during middle childhood, the children try to understand the logical principles behind everything around them. Second, there is a marked improvement in the spatial reasoning of these little children. And lastly, the logical thinking limited to real and concrete situation. That is, basically during the middle childhood, the child tries to understand that what is the logic behind everything which is around him or her, and they also show a very good improvement in the spatial reasoning, that how far something is. They try to understand the depth or the distance between the places. In the middle childhood years, language development proceeds in many ways. More than just learning new words, children are acquiring more adult definition of the words they know. They create relationship among words, understand synonyms and antonyms, and understand how prefixes and suffixes affect word meaning. As of now, we have just discussed about the physical and cognitive development that takes place during the childhood period. Now let us come up to the next topic of discussion, which is that how does the socio-emotional and personality development takes place among the little children. Infancy is a period when basic emotions are established and the child progresses in both emotional expectations as well as recognition of emotions in others. During early childhood, children typically start to develop self-conscious emotions like shame and guilt as they start evaluating themselves instead of simply reacting to caregivers or other adult evaluation. That is, now the children do not rely only on the caregivers for what they have done, but now they have achieved the capacity by the early childhood of evaluating themselves. That is, if they are doing something inappropriate, then it will bring them shame. As children become increasingly self-aware, more effective at communicating and better at understanding the thoughts and feelings of others, their social skills improve. That is, one child may feel angry, but because the child has grown or because the child has developed that emotional understanding in others, so now the child knows that having a tantrum at school is inappropriate. That is, school is not the right place to show a tantrum. Another emotional capacity that develops during early childhood is known as empathy, which is trying to understand how other person might be feeling. This is an important component of positive social behavior. Learning how to appropriately express and deal with anger, aggression, and fear is a valuable life and social skill also. They begin to develop their ability to interact with others socially. Young children begin to play more cooperatively. Often, these first forms of cooperative play include pretend or symbolic play. As they continue to develop socially with peers, they often enter a stage of rough and tumble play, which include running, racing, climbing, or competitive games. This is the stage when social skills such as learning to take turns and follow simple group rules and norms are practiced. We must also understand that how the socio-emotional development takes place during the middle childhood. During this period, children show fast change in social relationships. They use social comparison to distinguish themselves from others. They start seeing things from others' perspective. A child begins to weigh self-worth and increasingly compares themselves with peers. Children are now able to understand emotions of pride and shame and can experience more than one emotion in a given situation. During this period, gender differences are also observed. That is, girls may attach greater importance to the good interpersonal relationships and family, whereas boys may have more emphasis on the importance of social prestige. A prevalent problem among children of this age group is of bullying. And the research has found that the victims are often depressed and have lower self-esteem. Till now, we have talked about the physical, cognitive and socio-emotional personality development in children. Let us now talk about the socialization process that happens during childhood period. First of all, we must know what is socialization. It is actually the process of acquiring norms, values and beliefs which are considered significant in a society. Parents, families, children's peer groups, schools, religious institutions and mass media such as television are some important agents of socialization. They influence the process of child rearing directly as well as indirectly and reinforce culturally appropriate modes of thoughts and behavior. Much research has been done on the impact of parenting styles also on the socialization of little children. There are basically four main types of parenting style. Number 1, the authoritarian style. Number 2, the permissive style. Number 3, the authoritative style. And lastly, the neglectful or uninvolved style. First of all, the authoritarian style. This style is actually demanding, controlling and it involves insensitive parenting. That is, the parents are more demanding and they want to have control over their children. They do not understand that what the child may be wanting. So, this is also known as the insensitive parenting. Second is the permissive style. That is, the parents are more indulgent. They are not demanding, parents also. Third comes the authoritative style. The authoritative style leads to firm or consistent parenting, and whenever rules are made, the reasons are always given for why the rules are made for little children, and this is done by the parents. Neglectful or uninvolved style. In this style, parents are actually disinterested and uncaring, and they have low control over their children, and the communication is also not much among the parent and children. Besides family, peers, media and school, there are other factors which influence the socialization process. For example, ethnicity is linked to family size, structure, education, income, composition, extended network, etc. Ethnicity and socio-economic status of the parents makes an impact on child's development directly and indirectly. So, dear learners, as of now, we have discussed about the different aspects in childhood. We discussed that how the physical and motor development takes place during childhood, how the cognitive development takes place during the childhood, and we also discussed about the socio-emotional development and the socialization process during the childhood period. Let us now summarize that what we have done in today's program. As I just mentioned, today we talked about that physical development continues during the early and middle childhood period, but the rate is slower than in infancy. That is, during infancy, the physical growth is much more rapid, but during the middle childhood, it starts declining gradually. We also discussed that the gender differences in physical growth are there. That is, girls tend to have a growth spurt earlier than boys during the middle childhood. We also talked about the gross motor development, which is rapid during the early childhood. In the gross motor development, we discussed that gross motor development means that the larger muscle group is involved, for example, for walking, crawling, etc. During middle childhood, children continue to develop gross and fine motor skills, while there is marked improvement in muscular control and eye-hand coordination of these little children. In early childhood, the child is in the pre-operational stage of cognitive development. In the middle childhood, the child reaches the concrete operational stage, and in this concrete operational stage, logical thinking is stressed upon. We also talked about emotional development in childhood that involves the development of self-conscious emotions and better self-regulation in emotional expression. Social development progresses during childhood from parallel play to cooperative play. That is, during this period, the children start playing in a cooperative manner. The focus shifts gradually from family to peers and school. Peer acceptance is an important determiner of a child's self-esteem and adjustment. Lastly, we discussed about the socialization process. Socialization process, as I have mentioned, is actually about acquiring the behaviors, norms, values and beliefs which are considered significant in a society, and the family, media, peer groups and other surroundings play a very important role in this socialization process. We also talked about the different types of parenting styles that influences the socialization process and personality development of little children. Cultural and social factors also influence the parenting style and attitude towards child rearing and hence the socialization process. And in this cultural and social factors, we talked about that how the ethnicity of an individual affects the child rearing or the socialization process among little children. So dear learners, this was all about today's program. I hope you have understood the topic well. With this, I end up for today's program. Thank you.